Seconds. Hello, my name is David Lance, and it is so good to have you here. Today, I'm looking at another topic in my Defending the American Way of Life series. What I would like to do today is look at the issue of what is meant by justice, what is meant by social justice. We certainly see those things, especially the social justice topic, talked about a lot these days. And I have found that in talking to young people, they are rather confused about that whole thing. In fact, I was first introduced to this sometime in the fall of last year when I started a political science class that I teach. I had a student come into class, and his first question to me before anybody else was there, he says, "Are you going to talk about social justice in this class?" Well, that question has sparked several conversations and therefore the concept of this video. One of the things that I asked the young man, I said, when we treat all lives just as we treat our own, we have justice. This is an application of the golden rule. And he seemed to accept that. Before I had given him a definition, I asked him what he thought the word justice meant, and I asked him what he thought the term social justice meant. And he finally admitted he really didn't know. And so what I find is that a lot of young people don't know about that. I was actually talking to an English teacher who had seen the same sort of thing, and her comment to me was that so many people just don't read, that they don't understand the context of words, and oftentimes it's the context that gives meaning to a word. And so that's something I can't do anything about, but if you're dealing with young people, please be aware that you often need to stop and define the words you're using before you go on and talk about an idea. You might be surprised what they actually think you are talking about. Anyway, here's what I'm going to cover today. First of all, I want to talk about a report that came out in 2019 by the National Association of Scholars, where they looked at social justice education in higher education. Find out what colleges in America are teaching about social justice and what is meant by that. And then that has trickled down into the culture, especially into K-12 education. And I see lots of people talking about critical race theory, things of that nature. And so this all ties together. We also need to look for a few moments behind the scenes to find out a little bit about who the drivers are of this social justice education that has cropped up in the last 20 or 30 years. And then also, I want to look at some evidence that I believe indicates that social justice education is having behind the scenes of this revolutionary activity where people are talking about burning down America. And then finally, and maybe most importantly, I want to show you how you can use technology to capture information and even teach the true meanings of civics education by using some techniques with PowerPoint 2016 or more recent versions of that. So hope you're ready. Let's go. I'm going to have a drink of water here out of my coffee mug. And let's see here. So if you were to go online, you could search for the 2019 report titled Social Justice Education in America. It's put together by the National Association of Scholars. The principal researcher is Dr. David Randall. And I've highlighted here in yellow what they say about their report. They say, social justice education in America is a comprehensive examination of the inner workings of social justice advocates at more than 60 universities and how they have insinuated themselves into the university system to propagandize students. I thought only propaganda happened in communist Russia. Guess not. Any rate, this report offers several tactics to change this landscape, including legislation and disrupting the career paths of such advocates. So it's like about 270 pages long, and so I will leave it to you to read the whole thing. Peter Wood is the president of the organization, and he provided this rough definition of social justice in the executive summary. He says, and this is not him speaking, but what people who advocate social justice would say. I dislike the United States and American culture. American society treats people unfairly. American culture elevates the wealthy and the privileged over everybody else. It is oppressive. I'm oppressed. I want to change everything. I especially want to change the things in the direction of redistributing wealth and privilege. Those should be taken away from the people I don't like and given to me and the people I do like. The key to making this happen is to raise awareness among those who are oppressed and who don't necessarily know they are oppressed. Calling for social justice is a way of bringing people together to overthrow the systematic injustices all around us. And so, as we dig further into the report, I found this table that I found to be very helpful. Now, I'm not going to read everything, but what you can certainly do is, if you want, you can pause the video and read these over. But this is a list of propositions that the National Association of Scholars said had broad to overwhelming assent among Americans for most of our nation's history. Things like the free market can distribute economic goods more fairly than the government. The idea that economic and social goods are not rights. In fact, I just saw somebody today in the news. Today is April the 15th, haha, tax day. So there was a declaration that internet access was a fundamental right and people should be given it. Well, it certainly is good to have, but I'm not sure if it's a right. At any rate, the rule of law and procedural fairness are essential goods. I teach economics, and one of the things that all economic textbooks I have seen is the importance of laws that protect private property and contract rights. And so, if you don't have that sort of fairness, then you don't have people that are willing to risk things and create things. Government should guarantee equality of opportunity, not equality of results. There's this new phrase where people want equity as opposed to equality. And so that's something to pay attention to. The most important American identities are individual self, American citizenship, and common humanity. America is a republic of free and equal citizens that requires no liberation from oppression. I think that is especially key. Now, later on in the text, they suggest some things that the liberal social justice advocates tend to say are the things that are important. They don't really pay attention to those traditional American values that I just mentioned. So they have developed what they call an oppression and privilege framework. And so we have various groups: age, ability, religion, ethnicity, social class, sexual orientation, things of that nature. If you're male, you're automatically privileged. If you are female, then you are intersexed, or a female or intersexed or transgender, then you are somebody who is not privileged. If you are the Christian faith, then you are privileged. And if you are of some other race, then you are not privileged. If you're European, you are privileged. People of color are not privileged. And so we go on to see then that North American born people are privileged. Immigrants or refugees are not privileged. If you're an English native speaker, you are privileged. And if you have some other language, you are not privileged. Notice that this comes out of something called the Canada World Youth Workshop. I mentioned in a previous video that there have been efforts to put together things that tie in youth culture and things of that nature. Now, I want to mention that my wife and I are not of the same race. If you're looking at this video, you can probably tell I'm a white male. And so, therefore, and also I'm an adult in between ages 18 and 64. I happen to be 64. So I've got at least 3 strikes against me. I'm male. I'm in that age group of 18 to 64. I'm a Christian. I have European descent. I'm North American born. Wow, I am really privileged. My wife, on the other hand, is Asian. She was not born in America. She is female. She is a person of color. She is an immigrant. English was not her original language. And yet we live together and we share a house. You can see here in the background, we've got the words love and laugh behind us. I would say that we have a fairly good life, and we are definitely lower middle class in terms of our financial standings and things of that nature. And so, how is it that a privileged and an oppressed person can live in the same house at the same time? I don't know. Any rate, but that's one of the things that they talk about there. And so on pages 39 to 40, they mentioned that if social justice were nothing more than an uncoercive exhortation that every one of us should be our brother's keeper, there would be nothing about it to raise concern. But social justice theory justifies the exercise of the state's coercive power to bring its particular moral aspirations into practice, and that it does not recognize as equally important such rival moral aspirations as individual liberty and the rule of law. Radicals believe that oppression can only and must be removed by radically transforming, quote, the mechanisms of political participation, workplace decision making processes, and division of labor, and the overall organization of society, as well as the culture that pervades it, unquote. They also believe that the way to achieve this end is to assemble, quote, coalitions among the various marginalized identity groups in order to maximize political influence. Again, that's from pages 39 to 40 of the National Association of Scholars' report. Going on to pages 69 and 70, they talk about how a variety of universities around the country are incorporating social justice courses into the various curriculum requirements. And so that essentially guarantees advocates of that philosophy paying jobs that they can then use to do things. And so at Arizona State University on page 72, we have AIS 480, Actualizing Decolonization, TCL 490, Transborder Queer Performativity. Global awareness courses include JHR 305, Theory and Practice of Social Justice and Human Rights, and SOC 445 is Globalization, Development, and Resistance. And so I have not read the entire article, but it goes through many of the 60 colleges and universities that they use in terms of their mission statements, the courses that they are offering, and what is expected of the kids. Now, when you have a moment, I want you to Google the phrase social justice K through 12, and you will find web page after web page of curriculum tips, ideas, learning lesson plans, things of that nature to teach social justice curriculum from the lower grades up through high school. So ask this question: what is your school system doing? Do the school board members of your school know what is going on? Now, you will find when you Google this that there are some conservative alternatives, but they are a mere drip compared to the flood of these social justice advocacy programs. And so I feel personally that what is required is that citizen journalists are required to investigate and report and share what is going on in their school systems. So the question might be, how do you go about getting started? Um, Mhm. Well, one of the things that we need to understand is that this has been going on. Bill Ayers, former Weather Underground head, is the poster child of the school reform activist movement. He's the distinguished professor of education and senior university scholar at the University of Illinois at Chicago, retired. Now, he has helped through government grants create a lot of the social justice curriculum, at least out of the University of Illinois, and probably networking with a lot of folks around the country. Now, there's another report that I've known about for some time. It's called Standing Together to Organize a Revolutionary Movement, or STORM. Now, this was put together over a period of 1994 to the year 2002 out of Oakland, California. In another video that I've talked about, talking about youth liberation and so forth, so that youth liberation movement, I don't know for 100%, but I'm going to guess came out of this reclaiming revolution storm movement. There's a guy by the name of Van Jones who was one of the lead instigators of creating this manifesto that describes tactics and strategies to promote an internationalist social agenda by force. Now, you may recognize him presently because as a employee of CNN. Van Jones and his stormtroopers denounced America the night after 9/11. That's according to a blog post by Matthew Vadum on August 29, 2009. It says in the blog post, standing together to organize a revolutionary movement, that is STORM, the revolutionary group formed by self-described communist and rowdy black nationalist Van Jones, held a vigil in Oakland, California, quote, mourning the victims of U.S. imperialism around the world on the night of September 11, 2001. Now, the reason that this is important is because Van Jones is now President Obama's Green Jobs Czar. That was again back in 2009. And so he does not appear to have distanced himself from his past communist activities and is now part of the Obama administration's push to turn September 11 into a national day of service focused on the promotion of the radical environmentalist agenda. And of course, I did a video the other day on God versus Gaia. So if you've not watched that, you might want to check it out. And so, one of the things most recently, this is from February of 2021, Antifa BLM protesters were in the Washington, D.C. area. And they were marching, and I've put the information over here with regard to where this came from, burn down the American plantation. Now, if you watched my original video on coming up with a plan on how to defend the American way of life, I actually talked about this particular phrase. It comes from the website of revolutionaryabolition.org/political framework. In fact, from that page, there's the link there at the top left-hand corner. There is this part that I put in yellow. Our historical mission is clear. We must burn down the American plantation once and for all. And so that verbiage, that way of speaking, is now working its way out into the broader culture as these various protest movements come along. Do I know for a fact that those protest moments in terms of how to do that was taught at the San Francisco State University and similar universities that are teaching these kinds of social justice programs? No, I don't know that for a fact, but my strong suspicion is that it is a key teaching ground for these types of protests. Now, this is something that I captured using PowerPoint 2016 earlier this week. It comes from Laura Ingraham's on Fox News, talking about the assembly of people protesting and rioting in the Brooklyn Center there in Minneapolis on the date of April 13th, 2021. Hopefully, my recording apparatus will be able to play the audio so that you can hear this as I hit play.
I can tell you this, the makeup of the population out here certainly changed tonight. I think Sunday night, it was all about the locals who were here, and they were genuine and they were angry. As it goes on, you get more people coming in from out of town. I had a lot of people, or several people I spoke with tonight, who identified themselves as Antifa, and angrily so.
So the reporter for Fox News, who is off camera, is talking that he talked to several individuals who self-identified being from out of town as members of Antifa. So they are coming from other places, exactly where he did not specify in the report there. And so one of the things that I wanted to do here as we wind up this presentation is to look at a step-by-step method that you can use PowerPoint 2016 or newer to record videos. Now, I've seen people sharing like hour-and-a-half long videos on social media, when what they really want you to do is to go to the 26-minute mark and watch 3 minutes. Now, what I'm going to show you allows you to capture the 3 minutes from an hour-and-a-half long video or however long it might be, so that you can then share the relevant portion and get people's attention more easily. And so in a moment here, I'm going to kind of work through that process. In fact, let me do this right now. And so what I've done is I have essentially made it so that I can see the side over here. I've got to go to the right page in my PowerPoint slide. And so essentially what we're going to do is we're going to click insert, which is going to take us to a location over here on the right-hand side. And then we will be able to put things into the recording. Now, it's really important that whatever it is that you want to record, you first go to that site, because what's going to happen is that PowerPoint's going to remember the last place you were at, and it's going to think that that's what you want to record. So if you have a certain video that you want to record, make sure you go to that first before you go through this process. Okay. And so what's going to happen is at the top of the screen, this box is going to appear. You're going to basically select an area that you want recorded off your screen. And when you're all set, you'll hit the little red button and you'll start recording. And when you're all done, you're going to hit the little square and that will stop recording. And so essentially, to make things easier, I basically used another program called Loom, Loom, to record my entire screen so that I could show you how this is being done. And so let's go ahead and hit play, and hopefully you'll be able to hear the audio. Have you ever wanted to record like 3 minutes out of an hour and a half long video, but you didn't know how? So you sent people, you shared the hour and a half long video and you said, like, go to minute 26 and then watch to minute 29. Very uncomfortable. I want to show you how to use PowerPoint 2016 and above to capture a portion of a video that you really want to share. This particular one is about the Lady Justice statue. It's 2 minutes and 16 seconds long. I'm going to start it at the 13-second mark. And so I'm using a program called Loom. So I'm juggling a lot of programs. I hope you'll forgive me. I'm going to get rid of me right now. There I go. I'm gone. And now I'm going to go over to my PowerPoint slide. Now, here is the instructions. So if you need to stop and pause it and write them down, that's fine. I need to go fast because I only have 5 minutes on Loom. So remember, you want to go to whatever you want to record first, because PowerPoint will remember that. And then you're going to go to your target screen and click insert. Let's do that now. So there we are. I'm going to go up here to insert, and I want to come over here and it says screen recording. I'm going to click yes. Now, what I'm going to do here is I've already selected the area, but let's pretend for the sake of argument that I hadn't done that earlier. So I clicked select area, and I'm going to collect the entire area of my screen, because if I don't, I won't record it properly. So you should be able to see that I've collected my screen and I've got record. I'm going to hit record, and that's going to allow me to then hit play and record the portion of the video I want to do. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, hit play.
Symbolism of justice. In Roman mythology, she was the goddess Justitia. In Greek mythology, Themis, and in Egyptian mythology, Ma'at. She carries scales to weigh up the merits of the case.
I'm going to pause that. I'm going to fast forward to about the 45, 46 second mark. There we go. Hit play.
Since the 16th century, she's been depicted with a blindfold, and that shows that she gives out or justice should be given out objectively and impartially. And she carries a sword. And one meaning of it is that the people who make decisions carry a lot of power. And also another meaning is that it's a double-edged sword, and it means that reason and justice can cut both ways, for or against a particular party. In many statues, and in this particular one, she's standing on top of a law book, and she's also standing on top of a snake, crushing its head. The law book obviously symbolizes the source of law, and the snake symbolizes bad.
Oops. Sorry, I hit a button accidentally. Oh, darn it. All right, so let's see here. Have you ever wanted to record? Fast forward that. I apologize. My hand went someplace there. Here, I can bring down my thing. I'm going to hit stop because I'm done recording. And now you'll see that it's placed the whole video that I recorded into my PowerPoint slide. Now I'm not going to hit play because I only have about a minute left. If I weren't using Zoom, then I would have only selected the area of the PowerPoint or of the video that I wanted to record. But because I'm using Loom to record everything, I had to get everything in. So this is something that you can use to record portions of a really long video that you want to share with other people without having to share the entire thing. Hope that's helped, and I'll talk more about why I'm doing this in a discussion of comparing social justice to traditional lady justice. Thanks so much, and God bless. All righty. And so here in this slide, what I've done is I've shown you, and we're not going to play the whole thing here, but that's the just capturing the Lady Justice scene. And I've also laid out the five meanings: the scales, weigh the evidence and merits of the case. She is blindfolded. Justice is dispensed without prejudice. The sword of justice cuts both ways, equally against the rich and the poor. The book, it is the source of our laws, our Bible, our Constitution, our statutes, the laws that we pass. And the snake symbolizes that there is deception in the world. It must be crushed, or justice will be subverted. And that's where I think I'll end. May I suggest to you that there are many well-meaning people who are promoting social justice that don't really have a good understanding of the historical context in which it is placed. If they had that historical context, perhaps they would see that what they're doing is that they have been led astray and are deceiving the world in all sorts of things. But that's another discussion for another time. I hope that this has been helpful to you. And so at this point, I'm going to stop sharing the screen and stop the recording here.